Welcome to the Environmental Diagnostics Laboratory. Let me take you to show you what we do.
EDLab was founded in 1994 and has since analyzed more than 500,000 samples from over 15,000 facilities. Their main goal is to help improve building health by assisting indoor air quality investigations with expert laboratory testing and analysis. EDLab has been accredited by A2LA, is ISO compliant, and both CDC Elite and New York State Department of Health certified.
Hello, I am the first point of contact in EDLab, from receiving your samples to answering your questions and then to sending your reports.
A chain of custody is the documentation of the kinds of samples that are collected during an investigation and where they come from within the building. It is critical to understanding the conditions and issues that might be present in the building.
Yes, don't you know coronavirus is still a reality, and here in this laboratory we test environmental sample for coronavirus by using our PCR technique, that's one of the best known technique for doing SARS-CoV-2 testing.
EDLab is proficient in many different areas of environmental testing, including coronavirus testing in buildings. Samples are collected from the air or surfaces in a building and sent to the lab for verification. The samples are processed and then analyzed using PCR technology, which compares genetic material in the sample to a control sample to determine if the virus is present or absent.
Out of the many techniques we use, gram staining is a technique we use to differentiate bacteria. Let me show you how it's done.
Bacteriology is also a key area of study because it can impact occupants in buildings. EDLab can both identify and quantify different kinds of bacteria with a variety of methods. A sample is taken from cultured media, transferred to a slide, and stained so it can be easily identified under a microscope.
After completing the procedure, you can see the bacteria has retained the stain and looks circular in nature. So we can say this is a gram-positive cocci bacteria.
I am working to isolate and identify Legionella bacteria, which is a pathogenic organism that can be found in water samples.
We do a lot of environmental microbiology sample. Often we isolate bacteria and fungi or mold from indoor environment. We can distinguish bacteria from fungi by looking at their texture. Fungi usually has a fuzzy texture and bacteria usually has a waxy texture. Now I'm going to show you how I count fungi colony.
Mycology is the study of fungi or mold. Quantifying mold spores and other building contaminants provides critical data on exposure and threats to building occupants. One way samples are prepared for microscopy is by staining a slide and transferring the tape lip onto it. This is how the microbiologist can see the difference between contaminants lifted from a surface in the building.
Microscopy is one of the commonly used techniques that we use to detect environmental contaminants, such as mold, pollen, fiberglass, insect particles, skin cells. Let me share my screen with you. Here we see multiple pollen, as well as a plant fiber. We also see many different colored particles, such as the black particle here. We see pine pollen here.
Welcome to our Environmental Diagnostics Laboratory test chamber. This is the chamber we utilize to test the efficacy of a product or a technology by simulating indoor environment like condition, maybe office, room, etc.
The EDLab test chamber can simulate a wide variety of indoor environmental conditions and contaminants to test different kinds of products and scenarios.
Welcome. You are inside the test chamber. Here we have two separate components. The number one is the experimentation station where right now I am standing, and here we have all kind of instrumentation to make sure that what condition we are in, and this is our main chamber where we often propagate the challenges which I have to test, and then we collect the data. Based on that, we generate the report for determining the efficacy of an equipment or the technology.
Based on the laboratory findings, a report is prepared and distributed to the end user or customer. This is just a small portion of the types of work conducted at EDLab. For more info, please contact us today.